Welcome back to the PMP Industry Insider Podcast. I'm Brett, the editor, and this is another edition of Insider's Rewind, which is in place to help you get caught up on episodes if you missed any, or to welcome you inside with bite-sized segments to give you a feel for the show and find a good starting point. The PMP Industry Insider Podcast takes you to the front lines of what's driving change in the pest and lawn industry, and October was very heavy. We dropped 5 episodes, featured 3 guests, and mixed in a trip to Florida as well for Pest World 2025. So a lot of fun in Orlando. I was with the PCO Bookkeeper crew and got to see a lot of folks that I've only ever Zoomed with. This includes Sherry Spencer Bachman, David Billingsley, the Church family, Brian Goldman, Courtney Karachi, Katsu, and so many others. And of course, we can't go without mentioning the very, very rare Dan and Donnie together sightings, and I just kind of stood there and filmed them like a creep too, because it's hard to get footage of them standing next to each other. Anyway, great time in Orlando, but it's time to get down to business here on Insider's Rewind. Each week, the show is sponsored by our friends at Coalmarch, marketing services for the pest and lawn industry. They can help you reach the right customers, boost brand awareness, and drive results with their detailed reporting. And right now, they're offering up 1 month free to podcast listeners. You can visit coalmarch.com/podcast for more info there. PestSure is another good friend of the podcast. From general liability to auto and workers' comp, PestSure has the broadest coverage in the industry. Pest professionals rely on PestSure for their specifically tailored coverage options. You can visit PestSure.com to learn more about their offerings. And Voice for Pest, new for 2025, they offer voice solutions for PCOs of any size, coast to coast. Voice for Pest will design and implement the systems that you need. You can visit voiceforpest.com and learn more about those services and how they are staying up to date with the constant changes in the AI space. And also, if it's peer groups that you're after, we have those in place as well. They are facilitated by the aforementioned David Billingsley and Sherry Spencer Bachman. Several past episodes will tell you more about the peer groups. So if you want to scroll back through and find those, you're certainly more than welcome to. More info is also available at pmpindustryiinsider.com/peer groups. All right, let's get started. 5 episodes to get to with guests like Audrey Hall, Taylor Olson, and Chase Gadil. We're starting with episode 245 with Audrey Hall, Building Business, Industry, and Community. Audrey is the president of EcoServe Pest up in New York, and she was on the show to talk about her journey in the industry. And we're talking about her being a kid in the industry, surrounded by industry leaders, and having her own small operation, which has blossomed into a thriving company. Let's check it out.
Did you know that you wanted to be in this business, or it was just kind of like a way to make some extra cash?
No, I remember, it's a funny story. I think we were in Boston at Associated when I was, might have been Pest World, 12 or 13 years old, and we were at a dinner with Matt Nixon. And so like the kiddos went to go to dinner with a bunch of like these other industry mega leaders. And we went around the room and we said, what do you want to do when you grow older? And I was like, no, absolutely not. I'm not going to kill bugs for a living. I appreciate what you guys do. I appreciate the vacations, but I don't want anything to do with this. And Matt was like, we'll see how that goes. And so I went for physical therapy my first year. Not as smart as I thought I was, I think, in the science department. And so my dad said, hey, just do what you want, but EcoServe therapy won it. And I knew the business. I was passionate about meeting people and learning about their stories and serving people. And so it kind of, from there, I got my business degree and took it from there.
Wow. That's kind of cool. So you talked about being involved in Associated. Can you just kind of walk us through what you did and how you got involved in that? It sounds like your parents are part of that, and it sounds like you're still a part of it. Is that correct?
Yeah. I just about a month ago we got back from our conference in Portland, Maine. So Associated is a peer group across the country, and we meet a couple times a year. And it's sort of a more intimate version, sort of a think tank where we get together. We have a couple of days of topics and discussion around what's working, what's not working, what's new in the industry. We share our numbers, we share our financials. We really get down into the nitty gritty. And growing up, it was I got to go to the receptions, and I was the kid with all the other kids. So like Sarah Thomas and Jen McCall, and so Jen Marlowe, I guess, at the time. But so it was all these kids that were going to these association, these meetings, and but now I look back and some of us stuck around, some of us chose different paths, and it's those people are family. I mean, that's an opportunity for me as a business owner, as a mom, as a community leader to be around people who just completely inspire you. That's a huge part of my success. That's kind of I think a secret sauce of people who find success in their life is just be surrounded by people with where you want to be and people who are, uplift you to continue to push yourself to be better.
Episode 245 there with the president of EcoServe, Audrey Hall. We're moving on now to episode 246. It's titled Empowering Pest Techs with Automated Real-Time Data. Special guest is Applause CEO Taylor Olson. And in the segment here, we'll be learning about how Applause works when it comes down to rewards for your techs.
How does Applause work? What are all of the things that motivate field service workers, and why is it attractive to owners or managers to use it?
Yeah. Back to, I think you guys mentioned this at the beginning. We really believe in automation. Owners are busy. A lot of folks get into pest control and lawn because they don't want to sit behind a computer all day. So I think if you hand them a service or software that they constantly have to do work in to get value out of it, that's kind of halfway there. So I bring that up because from the beginning, we wanted everything possible to be automated. So what we started with was we said, hey, the best way to fuel recognition and measure performance for a technician is to get the feedback from the customer. They were on their property, they were in the home. The customer is going to have an opinion on it. Mm-hmm. So we decided to start with a lot of the customer engagement stuff and said, after the tech leaves the home, we'll tie into your CRM, we'll automatically send out a text message. And then when the customer clicks it, a number of things can happen based on what the company's needs are. They can get 1 through 10 net promoter score, CSAT feedback on the tech. They can offer up an opportunity for the customer to leave a tip if they want to do that, to incentivize or reward the tech if they treated them well. They can ask for a Google review or social review. They can offer an upsell or additional lead. So we'll look in the CRM and we'll say, what services do you offer that this customer doesn't have? If there's a priority ranking of what you want to put in front of the customer, we'll use that automatically, or we can preset it up in the software to show them like, oh, it's mosquito season or it's rodent season. So we offer up a lead. And then the fifth is referrals. So we remind customers of the referral program and make it easy to submit a referral. So those 5 things can happen. And then all 5 of those can be used to reward the technician, to give them feedback that they did great and give them a bonus in money. And that happens instantly and automatically. So the owner has connected their bank account to Applause and decided, do I want to offer little spiffs for any of these things? The most common is Google reviews. I'll give $5 for every 5-star. When that happens, if you put yourself in the technician's shoes, I treated a customer, I was friendly, I did a good job, I'm leaving, I get an alert on my Applause app. Oh, look at all these nice things the customer said about me, and I just made $5. Gives them a little fuel throughout the day. So that was kind of where it started.
Episode 246 with Applause CEO Taylor Olson. So much more in that episode. If you're wanting information on how to implement Applause into your business, you can give a little extra thanks to your techs. Continuing our way through the month of October with episode 247, Unlocking Profit with Tiered Pricing for Pest Control. Dan and Donnie are solo on this episode, and they're discussing price anchoring and how tiered pricing can help consumers overcome analysis paralysis. Lots of great info here. Let's see how it goes.
Can't remember the name of the book, but it's Dave Thomas, the founder of Wendy's. Mm-hmm. And if you go to Wendy's, you get a single burger, a double burger, and a triple burger. And he wrote about that. And so instead of a simple pricing for general pest control, you present, good, better, best, bronze, silver, gold, whatever, right? So and so each tier provides different level of value. And as you said, the bottom tier might not be as profitable as maybe the middle or the best, but the best might be so expensive that you price yourself out of the market. But um, you know, so I've gotten it through Dave Thomas and what was he trying to do with those 3 burgers? He's trying to get people to buy the double burger, right?
Right. Yeah. No, and I think that's probably the biggest part of this, which is it's actually called price anchoring, which is essentially where you make your best option your most profitable option. Again, I understand. I mean, to your point, at least at Triangle, our most expensive program is not our most profitable one. Now, I realize that doesn't work that way with all companies. It's just the way it is with our current pricing. And the reason is because, much like what you said, Dan, we price ourselves out with our high-end, our really high-end service. But our middle one, the one that we want to sell more of, I mean, of course you have the floor, right? The lower-end service that if you can, obviously you want to sell something. But ultimately, it's all about anchoring in folks where they don't want that. They don't want the lower end. The higher end is really priced out. And so this whole idea of essentially you have this decoy where if they didn't have those options, they would probably choose the lower option. But since you have the 2 extremes, it makes it seem like the middle one is the one that they should choose, and it's the smartest choice because it gives them a little bit. It's not the very, very low end. They're not overpricing out of it, and that's called essentially what that's called a decoy effect. Where, and again, this is talked about in multiple studies. It's talked about. You talked about it with Wendy's. I mean, it's briefly discovered or discussed in that book that I referenced. But this is a well-researched pricing model, and if you look, a lot of companies do this outside of our industry. And again, for us, I'd say at Triangle, it has worked extremely well for us. We've been doing it for a number of years. And so at the end of the day, when you talk about price anchoring, it's this whole idea of hitting the consumer with 2 extremes to make the option that you really want to sell as the most reasonable choice and the best value in comparison with the others.
Episode 247 with Dan and Donnie from mid-October, and we're going to move up now to episode 248 with the Pest Control Consultants President, Chase Goodell. This episode is about mergers and acquisitions and the reality that it is not just for the big guys. I love this section because of its simplicity right off the bat. Take a listen.
What are some advice that you would give to some owners who are looking to explore this avenue as far as M&A? Which I would consider to be off the beaten path because most, much like what we said at the very beginning of this episode, most kind of feel like, well, that's private equity and large company game. What advice would you give folks who are looking to get into this?
Well, I think it's important to know what you want out of your business and, what do you want your business to look like when you're done with it? And if acquiring companies helps you get there, then I think you should be looking at acquiring companies. If door-to-door sales helps you get there, I think you should be thinking about doing some door-to-door sales. So it's easier for me to make decisions if my vision is 25 million recurring and I see $1 million company that's in my market. It's easy for me to explore that option because it lines up with my goals. And I know that, tucking that into my business helps me get there faster. So, I know you guys are big on the E-Myth and Michael Gerber, and I think that's what he talks about. Reverse engineer your business. And it's totally fine if you want to stay small and just do 500K in recurring revenue and live a great life. But for me, I want more than that. And so, knowing what you want is important, and acquisitions can help you get there faster if you're willing to look at them and do the due diligence and talk to the banks, and go out and make something happen.
That clip there from the very end of that episode and leading up to it, an abundance of things for the smaller pest operator. Guys, don't let M&A scare you or make you believe that you're not good enough for it. The 3 people in that episode can give you proof that you are or can be a good fit for it. All right, final episode in October was number 249, where new pest control industry cost study data was revealed. Dan and Donnie again solo on this episode, tucked away in their respective Pest World hotel rooms, battling less than desirable Wi-Fi signals and weak Orlando cell reception. If you were there, you probably know what I'm on about. But this data was produced by PCO bookkeepers The episode as a whole will give you a great overview of the comprehensive report. Let's check in with Dan and Donnie.
This is the interesting part, right? This number has gone up. Now, what I'd like to say, and I may be wrong, but I like to say is this podcast was responsible for a lot of people raising their prices big time during COVID. Big time. We were pounding the table.
I was going to say, not to be self-serving and thinking we're big stuff, but that is true. We absolutely were. We were going against the grain and telling folks that you absolutely, because I mean, inflation was taking off, right? I mean, you're right. I mean,
and you got a free pass because everybody was doing it, all different industries, fuel, materials, right? And so you got a free pass. The other thing is that people, so what affects this? Well, pricing affects it, but also route efficiency, just operating an efficient operation. But these are the numbers. They came out pretty much between 55 and 60%, not 50 to 55%. To me, this is good stuff. This is really good stuff, right? That means the industry's getting better. Okay.
Yeah. I mean, I would also say another thing can you go back to that slide real quick? I just want to, another thing I think that affects, it's still pricing, but what affects pricing? And I would say that's the competitive landscape. You can see here in the Southeast where there's a very high density of companies, and I'm speculating here. I'm with you that I don't know the full breakdown of this, but it's not terrible. But it is lower. And usually that's a function of there's also pricing pressures, right? And so you have to be aware of that. And the more competitive it is, the more pricing pressure you're going to have. I mean, look at the Northeast and then look at Mid-Atlantic. I mean, those are strong. But in any case, just I'm pontificating.
No, you're absolutely right.
That is quite the presentation, and the full episode will allow you to see all of the numbers and the breakdown of the data with Dan and Donnie. And that's all 5, folks. Thanks for hanging with us for another Insider's Rewind. We'll be back in early December to do this all again, and it was great to see everybody in Pest World, and if we did get a chance to chat maybe next year, just outside of Dallas at the Gaylord Texan. I'm Brett, the editor. Have a great month.